So welcome everyone to this next session of Travel Diaries. In this session, Sapan and Devika will be taking us across the highlights around the world. So we'll sit back and relax and enjoy the uh, views around the world. So I'll hand it over to Sapan now for this presentation.
Thank you, Kedar. Thanks for the introduction and the opportunity. Let me share my slide. All right. So main thing I cover like we traveled across the world. I know everybody did a great job explaining the itineraries and different countries they've been to. So what I just wanted to do today was focus on the key things that we recommend not to miss if you're in that country, but focus mostly on the travel planning side because I think that's where some of the tips may be of use to a lot of people. So I'll split that into two parts. First, I'll go over the highlights around the world based on experience, and then the next part is all planning. So, and we can do a Q&A on that if that helps. All right, with that, I'll start. Presentation this Dinama Purajanaka.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I just started a quick chronology of how we traveled over the years. Yeah, we start like we've been first trip with the international break was in Dubai, and then we went to Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and England, then Europe, Turkey, Canada, then Switzerland in 2013, Hong Kong, Macau, Bahamas, and the Caribbean, Singapore, and the last 2 years mostly has been through my work. So I had to be in Singapore and Japan. Thailand was an off trip. Australia and New Zealand were with the family. And then again, the last 3 countries, Japan, China, and Taiwan was mostly because of work. So this is just a quick high level summary on where we traveled, and I'll kind of highlight some of the key things that we discovered along the way. And then I'll cover some of these, how we did this in the tips in the next section, but I'll just start with the highlights right now. Just a quick summary on how we travel. Makmalari, like I'm very interested in culture and the food, and Devika, she's very interested in the history behind it. So those were some of the parameters how we ended up traveling or making these itineraries. And second thing, Kasamalari, we are mostly 3 days a city kind of people rather than one country a day. So we never actually did any tours for any of these trips so far. It has always been us planning and exploring the country. And one of the key things that biggest takeaways for me is like food is one of the best ways to uncover the local culture and understand some of the key things in any country you go to. And both of us being foodies, it always helps to explore all these places. With that, I will start with my last country, like Japan, and what are the key things that we really enjoyed there. So let me, So first place I would want to start is a place called Hakone in Japan. So this is actually 90 kilometers from Mount Fuji, 90 kilometers from Tokyo. And also like where you can actually see Mount Fuji. So it's one of the unique hot water spring places. It's extremely pleasant and nice. So I'm just gonna quickly share the photos. Take some hot water, hot water springs, and awesome lakes and a great view of Fuji. So this is just one of the, this is our my hotel room. So like a balcony, each balcony has customized hot water spring within the hotel. and you have a view of the valley right there. So it's one of a very extreme and unique experience for me personally. So yeah, you can't go wrong if you're going to Japan and Mount Fuji. It's so interesting place. आणि सेकंड थिंग युनिकली कसला डिस्कवर केला म्हणजे आम्ही सान असताना नालार बैसून खावच्या नालारी निद्दोच्या हंतलार यांनी आशिला that you kind of see some of those resemblance in the local culture in Japan. So हांगा तूं हॉटला पळोवचें गेल्यार कसले टेबल गिबल ना ह्या नालारी बैसून अशी जेवच्या आणि तशीच थंय हांतुळे नालारी निद्दोवचे. So that's one of the other two unique things that I found. So that's one thing I enjoy doing. Like when you explore some of the cultural similarities, it's very interesting to identify and find out. This is the Yannick sulfur as Sumara, hot like geysers in that area. So that's one of the other interesting discoveries. कोणाक तांगे लाईफ 14 वर्ष ऍड करका म्हण असल्यारी हांगोचे इता म्हळ्यार थंय एक मोट्टो आसा. This is a unique motto. The regular mottoची but sulfur and with black जाता blackened. So the Japanese people sell this there and culturally तांणी कसं म्हणता म्हळ्यार एक मोठो खाल्यारी तुका 7 वर्ष गेन जाता लाईफाच्या आणि तांणी 2 मोठ्या पेस्चर खावच्या रेकमेंड करना. So yeah, this is a unique thing that I found there. It's like black eggs in Hakone. And this is the lake there. And it took Makshi Polochekala, it's Mount Fuji. Interesting thing about Mount Fuji is it's not visible very regularly. It's probably not even 5% visible in a day. So luckily when we were there, we could actually get a nice view of the Fuji. And yeah, it's one of the sacred mountains for the Japanese. And anek unique thing malari, the culturally hot water spring antu, clothing is not allowed. That's one of the other unique cultures of the Japanese. It's bare bones.
Birthday suit only.
Right. So they say it's because of health reasons, and they strongly believe in that. So this is me in a kimono. So kimono is the local attire that you expected to wear. So normally when I'm in Rome, I'm a Roman. So yeah, I'm in a kimono here. Hantul Malalawa, yeah, this is how these beds are. It's all like on the floor, and every hotel in this area is like this. You cannot get a hotel with a proper bed here because it's very culturally unique. So yeah, so when in Japan, Hakone is one of the key areas to go. And this is the view from your balcony. Yeah, it's very nice and pretty, very relaxing. So if you're stressed, probably this is I'd recommend going here. It's very calm and relaxing. Yeah, this is like a hot stone bath. So it's very extremely hot. So they consider it very powerful, the Japanese. So they are healing process. Right. And like this is another balcony hot spa in the hotel. So yeah, you can choose between, you can either rent the public one for an hour, or if you have your own bath in your hotel room, you can use that too. So multiple options. All right, that's Hakone. So second interesting part in Japan, take Tokyo Gallery, there is a region called Shibuya. So if you look at this is the busiest street crossing in the world. So on an average, at least 2,500 to 3,000 people cross this street with every light. So it's one of the unique highlights of this place. And understandably so, you can guess, Tokyo is the most populated city in the world. So there are like 38 million people who live in this city. So that's why you can experience these crowd all the time. So this is actually, hopefully the video maybe can play. Let me try it. This is just a crossing, Shibuya. All right, you could briefly see my dad and mom who could be with me when I was in Japan. So this is the Shibuya crossing in Tokyo. And this is how it looks on a regular evening. The next highlight, obviously in Japan, has to be the bullet train. You cannot not miss this. So to airport land if you get a Japan rail pass, you are all set to go anywhere in Japan. It's such a extensive, efficient traveling mode, and it covers around 2,700 kilometers, the bullet train tracks around Japan. And one of the interesting things is to Eka city rabonu multiple cities core evening a makshevet. So that's the efficiency of the bullet train. You can pretty much do that. And normally on an average, Tokyo, because it's expensive, people travel between hour and 15 to 2 hours for their work commute. And people live far away and take the bullet train and come to work. So that's the other unique part. All right, that is Japan. So next, Taiwan. So Taiwan akasamalari extremely strong street food culture. So kanchi corner agelari, there's a street food market anywhere you go in Taiwan. So some of them can be as big as 4 kilometers. Like it's so popular. Taimalari, you can get the food for eating and you can also buy toys, or it's just a cultural thing. So you can find a class of every, even from the rich to the poor, enjoying themselves in these night markets. So the night market now matra, but it's open 20 hours a day. So that's one of the uniqueness of Taiwan. So these are how the street carts look. And young like grill, it's some unique things they have. The blowtorch to grill the meat, and takoyaki. This is a Japanese thing. And lots of meat, obviously, in Taiwan. So one thing you cannot miss when in Taiwan is they have something called stinky tofu. It's like the local delight. So like almost 8 kilometers dur dakune kalta ang stinky tofu karta sa taniman because it's so pungent, but the locals swear by it and they really enjoy this local dish. It's more acquired taste. Hangai try kela Taiwan and try kela. I thought Taiwanese one was slightly better, but nothing so amazing that you really enjoy. But the local Taiwanese, they never give up on stinky tofu. So it's very cultural for them.
Anthony Bourdain couldn't eat.
Well, even Anthony Bourdain couldn't eat this one. So. Next one. Next one, I want to move to China. So China mostly Shanghai vachashila. So one of the amazing things about China is the infrastructure. It is just amazing how much things they have built over time, whether it is the transportation, hotel, or anything. So I don't know if you know, but the largest metro in the world is actually in Shanghai. It covers 676 kilometers of trains for the local metro. It's amazing. And the second thing is the fastest train in the world is also in Shanghai. So to the airport Langelari, Shanghai into the train which brings you to the city center. It's like it travels up to 430 kilometers an hour, and it's the fastest train in the world. So infrastructure wise, it's amazing. Another thing that is very interesting or unique is the bullet trains in China. It's kind of mind-boggling that they have 38,000 kilometers of bullet trains already set up in China, and it works efficiently across the board. And it's the cheapest bullet train ticket price-wise in the world, I think. This one's just a picture of an ordinary station in a place called Suzhou, which is near Shanghai, but it looks grand and magnanimous. This is what I said was the fastest train in the world. So this literally it's a 13-minute ride from Shanghai airport to the city center, and definitely works like a charm. Yeah, Bitari, the train acha. This is the Rainbow Bridge, which connects the two parts of the city, Pudong to the Shanghai city. So it's called the Rainbow Bridge. Another thing unique about Shanghai is they have the world's largest Starbucks, and it is like a 3-floor packed place. It is extremely fancy, and it's the most expensive coffee of Starbucks I've had in the world, because I think it's starts from $11 US in China, but still it's packed. It's very popular and fancy. And this is how it looks from the outside. So this is the bullet train I talked about. This is the bullet train in China, and it goes up to 350 kilometers an hour. And as I said, it covers 38,000 kilometers track-wise in the country. And yeah, Polochakelari China mon Shidisana, but actually Shanghai has some French influence. So this is like French kind of a structure near the promenade where all the Shanghai skyscrapers are. So this is how the Shanghai promenade looks. I'll just quick video. You can see that tallest building in Shanghai right there. We just passed it. This one. It's the largest building in Shanghai. It's a very nice, beautiful pier with lots of skyscrapers. All right, that was China. I'll quickly move to New Zealand. This has to be our favorite in terms of recent travel, because it's absolutely stunning country. It's very, very friendly, technologically savvy, and extremely pretty. So yeah, country, it's so technically savvy that this is one of the only countries our local currency cash gain. Your phone, like it works like your Apple Pay works perfectly fine in anywhere in the where you go, whether it's a public restroom or a fancy hotel. It is just so efficient. So the local currency it's so technically friendly that way. Going to New Zealand. Take unique, interesting discovery. New Zealand, so this is like a public toilet. ते कसं म्हणणार रे 10 निमिष लिमिट असतं. So at तुम्ही 9 minutes जल्ला रे आणि काही उठाय नसला रे it'll sound an alarm and the door will open
Unlock.
and it'll unlock itself. It's very interesting, I thought. So you need to be really mindful of your time if you're using the toilet in New Zealand public restrooms. The other thing that's interesting is to bitar ge liquidly music play jata, and flush is after only, it'll only work after you wash your hands. So they're forcing you to obviously wash your hands, and then the flush will be turned on. So automatically, I thought it was very interesting and unique, which we never saw anywhere else when traveling. So as you know, like New Zealand has two islands, North and South. North Island has Auckland, which is and Auckland itself is 1.1 million people, but overall the country has just 4.6 million people, and in South Island it's just 1.1 million. So Gammat Mala, New Zealand, antu there are 35 million sheep and 5 million population. So for one human population, there are 7 sheep. I thought that was a very interesting stat. South Island has to be the prettiest of the two. It is very serene and extremely beautiful. So this is, I'll start with South Island. So this is like a lavender farm somewhere when we are driving around. It's like a postcard, the entire South Island. So this is just, we just parked randomly in one of the drives, and views are something like this. It's just serene and extremely pretty anywhere you go.
We didn't have an itinerary. We just drove around. We rented a car and drove around for most part. We knew the places we wanted to hit, but for most part, it was just driving around and stopping wherever we wished. So that was kind of a good experience.
So Sapan, एक question है sir. Kedar uleta sir. एक question है sir. See, North Island and South Island is quite a bit. So you drove around the full New Zealand, or
No. There is a, you could not drive. There's a, if you have to drive, there's a ferry which connects the North and South Island. But we actually flew from Auckland to Christchurch and then drove around.
Okay.
Flew back from Queenstown.
Okay.
So that's the normal itinerary I would recommend. If you're going to South Island, flying to Christchurch, start the drive, return the car in Queenstown, and then fly back out. So that works best.
Okay.
So this is another viewpoint somewhere in South Island. It's extremely scenic and pretty. This is one picture of our glamping trip. So there are a lot of, so if you are into RV and driving, New Zealand is heaven for that. But Amivatana, it was Christmas time. The minimum was 2 weeks, so we couldn't do these camper van RV kind of a rental. But we just decided to stay in one of the glamping camps to just get some experience of the local parks. So all these campsites are extremely clean, very pretty, and very, very much fun for sure.
And kid friendly too.
Very kid friendly, yeah. Yeah, sir. There's a place called this is a fjord. What is the name? Milford Sound. Milford Sound is the fjord. This is you go there and it's like a 20-mile cruise between these pretty mountains and waterfalls. Interesting thing is to ek view asta, anek time gala winged view asta because of the rains and everything. The whole place kind of changes based on where the waterfall positioning is and everything. So it's a very pretty place to visit for sure. It's one of the southernmost tips in New Zealand. So Tamakshi, that is the cruise. There are quite a few small cruises that take you on a 2-hour ride in Milford Sound to visit to view the fjords. Yeah. So this is Queenstown. It's a very it's a skier's paradise, but even when you're not skiing, it's a amazing place to visit. This is just one of the views up the hill in Queenstown. It's stunning. This is another view of it.
It's very popular for extreme sports like bungee jumping and what other things?
Like
High speed
boats
sport and what is the thing we did? Luge or whatever it is called. Yeah.
But I mean, we are traveling with kids, and most of the things actually has an age limit of 13 plus. So we couldn't do some of those fancy bungee jumpings, but yes, it's a adventure sports paradise as well. So this is the luge ride. This is Devika with Kaya, and this is the path of the track, the luge ride down the hill from Queenstown. I can quickly play one of these. So me and Leela, we just tried this luge and we just tried to record it. So I'll put.
Sapan, what is this ride called?
It's called luge ride. Luge,
Okay.
Luge.
Okay.
It's there are two places in the world where they have this. One is in Queenstown. The second one is in. Also have this, but nothing can beat Queenstown because of the prettiness.
Views, yeah. The views are
Yeah,
very
we
nice.
were there for 10 days, but we did not see this. That's why I am
Okay. This is
asking.
up the hill. The ropeway and
Why?
and then you can come down using the luge ride all the way down.
Oh, okay.
Instead of taking the ropeway, we took the luge ride down. So that's the difference.
Yeah, we saw, actually, when we were coming down the mountain, we saw people, but I didn't know what this was.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great experience. It actually goes up till I think 50 kilometers or 60 if I'm not wrong. So it is pretty nice.
Okay. Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and I think food-wise, we really had this. I mean, for obviously people who do eat meat, we had a really good lamb roast in New Zealand, which I think was one of the best lamb roasts I've ever had. So, if anybody is into food, I highly recommend that place. It was really good.
Yeah, we came down by ropeway, so we missed this, but we could hear the kids screaming and enjoying.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was South Island. So now I'm quickly going to North Island. So North Island has some unique things. So this is one of the first experiences. So Makshipalochakelar, it's a cold water beach, but literally next to it, there is a hot water spring. So basically, if you dig deeper into these sands, it's actually hot water. This is us standing in the hot water right next to the beach. So it's a very unique place in North Island that you get to see. You don't find it anywhere else in the world. Anything to add?
No, that's it.
And the other thing in North Island is a place called Rotorua. Rotorua is like completely all geysers and hot water, like geysers around the whole city. So to Kanche Hotla Rablari, you can get these hot water baths anywhere. So you'll see these baths. So that's one of the unique things about this place in North Island. But obviously, like between the two, there's no comparison. South Island is the prettiest, but yeah, North Island is still pretty, and some of the unique things you can find there. All right, last thing there in North Island is this glowworms, Monasa. It's like it's interesting. They won't let you click the pictures inside, but this is the boat to get into the tunnel. And it's full of glowworms this time. It's like green radium. Yes.
Inside the dark tunnel, it glows like a purple radium when they turn off the little bit of lights, and it's a really good view for the kids because they find it very mesmerizing. So that was very interesting. The kids really enjoyed that.
Right, these three things in North Island you shouldn't miss. All right, that was New Zealand. I'll move to Australia, but one advice, if you are going to into that part of the world, go to Australia first, because if you go to New Zealand first, you'll be disappointed with Australia. Because New Zealand is much, much prettier than Australia for sure. But Australia is still nice. Australia, too, obviously one of the highlight is this 12 Apostles near Melbourne. And if you take the Great Ocean Road, it's a very, very scenic drive and pretty, like our PCH, Pacific Coast Highway in California. But yeah, it's one of the must visits for sure. Extremely pretty and scenic.
Yeah, for Australia, we decided not to go to the northern part of around the Gold Coast, because we wanted to take the full experience if we do go there, which is like the diving and everything. And I think there is an age limit for it. So the kids would not have been allowed to dive in or whatever. So we thought it wasn't worth the trip up there and spend time. So we decided to spend time more where we could enjoy with the kids. So that's why we decided not to go to the Gold Coast.
All right. The second interesting part is for the cricket enthusiasts, MCG is a great visit. It's the largest stadium. I think it can hold 100,000, 350 people. Now I think Ahmedabad is closed, but this was the largest when we visited. So we could go and visit a Big Bash League game with some of my friends who are in Australia. So this is just a quick kids enjoying a Big Bash League game. That's MCG. And this is how it looks from outside. But then the key highlight though has to be the fireworks in Sydney. So to me, actually weather-wise, it's the best time to go around Christmas because it's summer in Australia and New Zealand. And secondly, if you're in Sydney, the fireworks near the Harbour Bridge is the best thing you can do. So this is a place called Cockatoo Island, Monu. It used to be a jail in the past, but now
like
our Alcatraz. Now they converted that to like a camping site, and it's extremely popular during the New Year's Eve because of the view that you get from here of the fireworks. So this is the terminal of the Cockatoo Island when you take the boat in here. So this is us with Devika's cousin there who lives in Sydney. So we could actually spend December 31st in the island.
Yeah, we camped on the island on the eve of, and then left on the morning after. But it was very interesting because that day it was a very, very interesting weather. Like right now, when we click the picture, it seems very clear, but right after that, when it got dark, it was extreme thunderstorms, and they had to ask us to shelter into the structures over there. We had to leave our campsite, but fortunately, by the time the fireworks started, it all cleared up. So that was kind of interesting.
It was amusing. Ita madam India itla paus good minchu ani podonu. That didn't look threatening, but for the Australians, that was like as if the world was coming down, and they just wanted us to be safe and indoors. So it was interesting for sure. And the unique thing that I found uniquely about this place is they have two fireworks show. One for the kids at 9 p.m. and one at 12, which is the regular fireworks that I didn't know till I went there. So this is just a clip of the fireworks at 9 o'clock. This is from the view from the Cockatoo Island where we were. So. All right, that's just a quick like a preview of how it looks. It's very pretty and something I highly recommend you do when you're there. Yeah. All right, moving on to Thailand, Bangkok specifically. So one of the interesting things in that part of the world is the durian. So durian is one of the another most pungent fruits you can see. So this is just the ice cream there.
It's a far-fetched cousin of the funnels.
One of the highlights there is like the markets, the boat markets in outskirts of Bangkok. So this is how the look. So you actually travel around the boat, stop at wherever you want and shop. So it's one of a very popular thing with the tourists. So you can pretty much go around and buy whatever you see, whether it's the coconuts or the fruits or the handicrafted work of Thai or like the Thai silk or whatever. You can find everything here. So this is how it looks. And this is how it looks at the junction where there are multiple markets and multiple tourists going across these. The other thing is, I don't know, so like some people may have watched the movie called Hangover. So the Hangover movie, into Hangover 2 specifically, there's a place called Sky Bar. This is like one of the tallest buildings in Bangkok, and it's extremely popular with the visitors. So basically it's like a glass, feels like you are actually floating. But yeah, it's pretty unique place. It's a very popular place in Bangkok. So this is how it looks from the top. This is a view of the road with the, and now it's slightly dark, but it's like you can see the river which is right next to it. I can show you one of the other pictures. So yeah, and very great architectural Buddhist temples. This is called Wat Pho. And there's a Wat Arun also. This is Wat Arun in Bangkok. And the other unique things about Bangkok is it's like, because it's a river, there are a lot of ferries which connect different places. So you just take the ferry from one place to another, which is nice. Yeah, this is how the ferry looks. It's pretty ordinary, but it does its job. It takes you from point A to B. Yeah, this is the river I was talking about. So you can pretty much travel around Bangkok with the boat. Other thing that's popular, like there's a market called Chatuchak Market. It is the largest market in Asia. It's like, I think it has like 15,700 vendors at least. And I think it goes five kilometers. So that's, it's an interesting experience to go there. You can pretty much find anything you want. All right, moving on to Singapore. If there is one place you want to have a layover when you're traveling to India or whatever, it has to be Singapore because it's an amazing airport for sure. It has everything from a movie theater to a swimming pool to a what is that, sunflower gardens, cactus garden, and you are pretty much set if you want to kill time. So it's an amazing airport for sure. The best part if you're in Singapore has to be the Singapore Marina area. So this is one of the hotels in the marina. It's called Sands Hotel, and it also has a casino inside. But if the most interesting part is the top, what you see here, that's actually a swimming pool. So it's one of the very interesting experiences in any hotel around the world, the rooftop swimming pool. And it looks something like this. So it is, and there's a bar and restaurant on the top too, if you don't want to swim and just enjoy the views. And other interesting thing about this place is they have a light and light show every night here at 8 p.m. Light and laser show. It's free for the public, and they have it more than once on weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Very pretty place to go. So this is how it looks. All right. Moving on from Singapore, Bahamas. The main Malari Nassau. We took a cruise, so we didn't actually spend a lot of time. But if you are there, one thing you actually have to do is the Atlantis. They have, if you're a water park lover, it actually they have an amazing water park. So there's a 60 feet, almost 180 degree slide down in this water park. So if you're staying there, obviously you get access to it. So it's one of the awesome resorts where you can spend a lot of time, and especially if you're a water park person. The next thing we did was Saint Martin. So this is like one of the coolest places if you're an airline or plane spotting viewer. So if you look at this picture, there's a beach on the left. Literally right side Arodach, that's like the runway, that's the landing runway. Samivatan, this was a small flight, but it doesn't look as impactful. But to 747, Netherlands, that like huge plane just landing there. It's an interesting experience. So to me, the right side of the grill don't rub, Larry. When the plane is actually taking off, if you hold it like this, your legs are actually in there because of the thrust of the airline. You can actually like have your legs in the air pretty much. It's a very unique and interesting experience.
A lot of people just come to do that there, even though they have clearly mentioned that that's very injurious to people.
Yeah, it's Sophia Plain Spot. This has to be the best airport in the world. It's very, very unique. This is me and Kaya. And that's the runway in the background. It's a very small strip, but yeah, very interesting. Something I wanted to do. I was very interested in being at this place, but yeah, I could do this in 2016. All right. Moving on to Puerto Rico, which is the other part of there. I did not know till I was there. So obviously, it's mostly forts in Puerto Rico, which is very nice and pretty. But one of the things that I realized once I was there is Puerto Rico has the largest rum distillery in the world from Bacardi. Actually, 83% of the world's Bacardi is actually distilled in this place. So they actually have a visitor center and they have a tour of this. So yeah, something interesting I found out when I was there. So that is Puerto Rico. Let me quickly move on. Moving on to Hong Kong. Hopefully, I'm doing on time. Yeah. This is, if you're in Hong Kong, Victoria Terminus has to be the place you need to go. Even if it's like if you're in a small transit, this is one place I would recommend going. So one of the other trivias in Hong Kong is Hong Kong has the world's highest skyscrapers in the world. There are like 355 skyscrapers. It's even bigger than New York, something you'll not imagine, but once you are there, you'll realize skyscrapers everywhere in Hong Kong. This is us at the Victoria Terminus. And the other unique thing about Hong Kong was this was the world's cheapest Michelin star restaurant. So we obviously being foodies, we like to explore this. This is a place called Tim Ho Wan. It's right at this. There are multiple branches, but this one was right at the city center. And yeah, under the train terminal, there's like a 45-minute wait. Luckily, we could get in, but yeah, it's a great experience to dine there. And a unique thing about Hong Kong, especially Cathay Pacific Kasamalari, you can check in your bags at the city center 24 hours before your flight. So basically, to city center, you check in your bag here in the city center. The bag actually goes to the airport and then gets delivered wherever you're exiting. So that's something which is very unique, I felt, among airports. There's normally to airport, I check in bags. So you can normally check in your bags, then go around the city and then go to the airport at night. So that's
the stopover place. Like if you have a day to stop over somewhere, this is one of those.
Yeah. So I'll cover those multi-city options in the end, because that's one of the, from a planning side, I just want to highlight some of the learnings. So I'll do that. Second thing near Hong Kong is Macau. So actually, a photo gallery, it doesn't feel like you are anywhere close to China or Macau, but actually this is Macau. They have a strong Portuguese influence, and even there was secondary language called Macaonese, which is derived from Portuguese. And even the food, the default food you get here is not Chinese as much, it's very Portuguese in flavor. Even your Goan Vindaloo you'll find here because it's culturally very connected to Portugal. And this is us at the Macau Tower. This is the rooftop. And yeah, back in there is, I think Zhuawi is the city in China. Interesting thing about Macau, two very interesting things. First is the revenue of Macau is 7 times of Las Vegas, 6 to 7 times. So in Las Vegas, you find some casual gamblers, maybe some people enjoying buffet or some shows. But Macau is all about gambling. People are heads down, just rolling big time into gambling. So you never see people outside walking like Vegas, but everybody's inside the casino just gambling. So that's one of the unique differences. And second thing is China has built a 58-kilometer bridge to connect Hong Kong to Macau to Zhuhai, the tri-cities in that neighborhood. It's like a 9-year project which they spent 20 billion on, and that's structurally very, very impressive to connect these three parts. So that's other thing, trivia about Macau. Moving on from Macau to Switzerland. I mean, this one, most of you probably would have visited. And obviously some of the Bollywood movies have made this place very popular. But I think the two things that I would say is to find a Bollywood restaurant at the highest mountain called Jungfrau in Switzerland. So it has so much, like Bollywood has so much influence that the only restaurant you'll find at the top is like a Bollywood restaurant. It was closed when we were there for repair or something, but very unique. This is the view from Jungfrau at the top. I know like some of the people already covered this, so I'll quickly go over. And the second thing, yeah, this is all on the way to Jungfrau. No, this is on the halfway. Yeah. And the other thing that's unique, we did a train trip. There's a train called the scenic train called Bernina Express. It starts from Chur and it ends in Italy. Actually, there's a place called Tirano in Italy. So the last stop is actually Italy. So it's a stunning train trip. Looks something like this. And this is the inside of the train. Very, very pretty and scenic. This is Leela at one of the stops. She was just a year when we went there. So yeah, I highly recommend doing a scenic train trip in Switzerland. All right. Moving to Turkey. Probably one of the most underrated places you'll find. It's Turkey, obviously. Let me see, where is it? Okay. The most unique part about Turkey is people don't necessarily go to a place called Cappadocia. It's like, it's an hour and a half by flight from Istanbul to it's southern Turkey. It's very, very interesting because Cappadocia has two cities, one city above the land and another city below the land. And even below the land, there are some 7 stories of things that people had built, and some going back to 1500 BC. So it is so culturally old and strong. It's kind of amazing how people have actually built a city at that time. And other unique thing is there are a lot of caves in there, and these caves have been converted to homes. And some of the homes have become hotels now. So this is the hotel we were in. It's very structurally looks really old, but they have really modernized the bathroom and stuff. It's a very amalgamation of the old culture to some of the new modern amenities. So, and the best thing is it's very small because it used to be people's homes. So you don't get more than 6 rooms in a hotel or so. So the hotel we're in, there are only 6 rooms. So it's very personal also. It doesn't feel like
more
a
like
hotel.
a bed and breakfast rather than, yeah. I mean, even though they call it a hotel, it was more like a bed and breakfast. They had like, I think breakfast was in the morning, which was very, very homely sort of cooking, like very Turkish morning breakfast. So, and the people were super nice.
Yeah. Other thing you'll see in Cappadocia is hot water balloons to enjoy the beauty of these caves. There are a lot of hot air balloons that take off. So very nice to do. We couldn't do it because this was Leela when she was 6 months. We traveled, so we couldn't take the hot air balloon. But yeah, Very nice place. That's the hotel in the hotel room in the background. Very nice and uh, very culturally inspiring. Old but still very nice and charming. So this is the underground city that I was talking about. I think it dates back till 1500 BC. And these are some of the underground churches in Cappadocia. So it's a heavily Muslim based population, but there is a lot. Most of the visitors are based on some of the Christian history that was present in Turkey. That's one of the other unique things we found. A lot of churches and underground hidden churches like this you can find. This is what I was talking about. These are the caves like structure in Cappadocia. Okay. Yeah, very, very pretty, and something I would absolutely recommend if you're in Turkey. The other one is, this is obviously is the usual suspect, the Blue Mosque. It's very impressive and something you can do on your stop in Istanbul if you're taking the Istanbul break. This is the Blue Mosque from inside. And this is the other side of Blue Mosque. Let me check. Okay, this is how a Blue Mosque looks. Quickly play a video.
Oh, that's lovely. Very pretty.
That was Leela taking a nap when we were in Blue Mosque.
So interestingly, actually, Turkish people do not apparently take their little kids out very often until they are 3 or 4 years old. So each time I would have Leela carrying Leela, everybody would be like saying something in Turkish, especially the older ladies. And then our travel guide would say, yeah, she's just asking you why you have the little kid out when they are so young. The other thing is Leela used, back then the song Mashallah was very popular, and everybody would look at her say Mashallah, Mashallah. So she found that very funny. She would giggle when people would say that. So.
Yeah, and I think we went around the time that shooting was happening in Turkey also. So yeah, it was in 2012. All right. Moving on to Italy, I'll probably quickly cover these places. Italy, the most interesting part is normally you are associated with the pizza and pasta when you're eating Italian food here. But Italy, it's amazing how culturally it changes based on how you travel. Like if you're in Venice, it's all seafood. If you're in Rome, it's different. Florence is more pork-based food. So it's a very different experience based on where you actually having the food. So it's probably the best food I had across all the travels. Italy has to be the best.
Diversity.
Yeah, and quickly going on to the pictures. One of the things, yeah, not a lot I have, but I'll quickly share. So there's a place called San Gimignano, which is in the Tuscan Valley. So it's extremely scenic and pretty. Very popular for the gelatos. It's probably one of the best. There's a gelato place here. It's, I think, voted the best gelato in all the awards. So that was awesome to eat.
We also took a day trip to a ranch on the way to San Gimignano, and it was really nice. They cooked like farm to table, and they also showed us the saffron farms and the olives, and then their ranches over there, and how they make they have the cheeses, like how they make the cheeses. So that was that was a wonderful experience. And then in Venice, actually, one of the things we really enjoyed, we tried not to do a lot of touristy things, but we walked over to the more local areas of Venice. We actually walked into a restaurant, very local restaurant, smelling some of the seafood actually, and it was actually what you call your Natali fries or anchovy fries. So we really enjoyed that. Then the restaurant, the chef told us that if you really enjoy looking at seafood or enjoy seafood, there's a local seafood market in the morning, so you can wake up in the morning and go there. So we woke up in the morning and we went to see the seafood market, and that was also a really nice experience.
One of the best tip I got here in Italy is so go farther from the tourist spot. The farther you go, the tastier it tastes, and that was actually true. The nearer they have something called a tourist menu. That's the first thing you need to avoid. Never go for a tourist menu. It's the most inferior option. But if you go further out in where the locals eat, it becomes more tastier for sure.
The trattorias are the most have the best food. It's like in our India we say Thela wala has the best food, like that. The trattorias have the best food. They have like 3 restaurants. I think there's restaurant and
yeah, trattoria, ristorante, and
what was the pub? There's a pub called. There's another one that is the pub.
It's right? Cafe, just a cafe. So,
yeah.
So Ristorante is the white table. It's the most expensive of the lot. Trattoria is in between. It's some decent seating and decent food, and then the cafes are those standing ones. So we didn't know the difference when we were there, but that's one thing you'll quickly learn in Italy once you're there. And let's see, I think I have this is the market in Venice. It is early morning. We just good thing when you go to a market is you find some of the unique things, local unique things. So we always enjoy going to these.
Yeah, this is the seafood side of it.
Yeah, it's you'll be surprised some of the relationship between some of the things you would have used in India versus what you'll get. There's some connection here and there you can find always. And they're playing music at 7 a.m., which is nice. All right, that was Italy. Quickly, other thing about this is one of our favorite cities as well among all the cities I've traveled. It's very unique to land in Venice and then take a boat to your hotel. You'll never do that anywhere else in the world. But Venice being all by the water, that's one of the uniqueness with Venice. Paris, obviously everybody knows about it. But the interesting part I didn't know about Eiffel Tower is it was supposed to be there only for 20 years and it was supposed to be taken down after 20 years. But then because at the top they had a satellite communication and it was helping and it became so popular, the city and the country decided to keep it for longer, and now it's still one of the most visited places in the world. One thing I would recommend you not to miss is the night glittering show. It's like 3 to 4 times at night every hour. So it's one of the most magical experiences. It looks something like this. So highly recommend you are there around that time. Yeah, this was some time ago we went. It's more than 10 years now. All right, moving on to the next, almost ready to wrap up the countries and then we can go to tips. England, yeah, interesting place. One of the unique things we found is like people here sit and eat, but in England, wherever you go, people are standing outside a pub and drinking. Everybody's standing. That's one of the culturally different things you see there. Everybody's outside and rather than sitting. The other thing there is like the Tower of London. It was very interesting. You had the Kohinoor, which is controversial, which is kept there. Uh, there's always some politics between India and England on that. So this is right outside that Kohinoor, the Tower of London. But personally, we thought England is still for the Queen and stuck in its past. Everything is surrounded around the royal family, and they're just busy with that. They would come out from it still. So that was England. One thing I just I wanted to highlight. This was something I did in 1996. I know it's kind of hard for people to take a break when you're going to India because you're visiting family and friends. But one of the unique things is there is a trek in the Himalayas called Sarpas. It is like, it's 13,845 feet. It's a 3-day conditioning camp that they do in the base camp in Manikaran, Himachal. And then it's a 9-day trip after that. So it's total 12 days. I got the opportunity to do this in 1996 because my father was also into trekking. So I was fortunate to go there. And I think it was around 800 rupees then per person. But now I just checked yesterday, it was like 8,500, still like a steal for what you are getting, because they actually have porters carrying food, cooking for you, putting all the tents in your path. And it's a life-changing experience for me personally, because till then you're mostly with people around who you know. But when I was there were people from all over the country together, and it was very diverse and very fulfilling for sure. And obviously if you have some may get breathing issues at this height, but very fulfilling experience for sure for me personally. All right. I spoke a lot about highlights. So now I'll just shift myself to some of the tips, because I think that's one of the learnings I wanted to summarize today as far as my experience. So one question is, how would you be able to go to different places though you may have like 10 days vacation in a year? So one of the things we always did is there's a when you book a airline, there's a multi-booking option. So normally people just select round trip and book, but I would highly recommend you take a multi-city booking option and just take a break in one of these countries around the world, because you definitely get to explore something, even if it's for few hours or a few days. I would strongly recommend that. So over the years, whenever we traveled to India, we took a break in each of these countries, whether it's Dubai, Singapore, England, France, Turkey, Switzerland, Hong Kong, or Singapore. So you can probably tell by this itinerary that I never taken the same flight again, because it's different airlines based on where we went. But definitely worth booking. I think when we started in 2003 or so, multi-city were higher priced, but over time now it's more or less the same price as a round trip. So that's one key tip I would say. Like, for not much of a price difference, you get to explore a new place whenever you're traveling. And the other challenge we had was because of the limited vacation. Once you're going to India, you pretty much used most of your days off. So this was the only way to explore a new country for us. So we always made it a point to take a break whenever we visited India in one of the countries. So one major tip you can probably use. Other thing, some may have know this, but whenever if you don't have time to take a break, try to see if you can adjust your calendar where you have like at least a 5-hour transit between your next flights, because one of the things that some airlines provide for free is a city tour. So like if you go look at Turkish or Korean, EVA, Qatar, Singapore Airlines, they have free city tours, which they give you own visa. If you need a visa, that is, they'll give the visa. They'll have a shuttle take you around the city and bring you back to the airport before you take the next flight. So it's free and something you can always utilize. One interesting thing about Japan is ANA doesn't give you a free travel option, but they give you a free guide, English speaking guide to actually take you around. So you just pay for the train trip to the city, but the guide is with you, taking you, explaining you around and bring you back before your time. So that's one of the interesting things about ANA in Japan. So if you have slightly more time to do the transit, there are a lot of airlines providing free hotel as well. So if you fly Emirates, Finnair, Qatar, Turkish, Air China also. Air China fares are not normally that high, but still that includes the hotel if you have a long break in Beijing. Same with the Air Portugal, Sri Lankan Air and Korean Air. So yeah, I would just look at this option if you have some time. Even if you don't have much, these are the two immediate things you can do. But if you have more time, I would say take a break of at least a day or more to explore the local cities or countries if you have more time. All right, next questions about how to book or optimize your travel. Like I know, as I said, we mostly book our own, plan our own, and not necessarily go to take the tour because of our preference. But one way to do that is there are like different websites to manage that. So one thing I would recommend you do is there's a app called Hopper. Hopper gives you prediction of what the price would be to 95% accuracy. It's pretty good. So you put where you want to go and the day in there, and the app will alert you when it's the right time to book. And then when it's giving you that indicator, then you can go to Google Flights or Momondo to actually book the flight, because Momondo, actually one of the unique things about Momondo is it does a lot of one-way fares also. It combines together, and if that's the best fare, it'll definitely show you that compared to some of the other sites which just do round trip and analytics. So that's something unique about Momondo. Or like Google Flights, they bought a company called ITA Software, so even that has very good options now. So yeah, Hopper for predicting when to buy, and then Momondo or Google Flights to actually book it. And Kayak has been there for a long time. So one of the things you may want to plan is, like, say if kids are spring break, you know you have to go somewhere, but you don't know where the destination is. So Google Flights and Kayak gives you the option to just put a window of when you want to go, and it will give you a world map of how much the airfare is based on where you go. So that's like an explore option, which is unique in these two websites, which you can use if that helps. And some people may think trying to book separately may be too much of a hassle. So for them, there is a customized option. There is a website called TripMasters. TripMasters does customized airline and hotel bookings together. So you basically, they have some bestsellers already, but say if you don't like a particular city, you want to go city B, you can quickly customize in the airline, and they actually give the pricing right away real time. So, or if you want to stay in a particular city 2 more days or 1 more day, you can quickly adjust it, and automatically the pricing works that way. So TripMasters is great for somebody who doesn't want to book separate things, but just want one place to book. And so this follows your own itinerary versus a travel agent where you're forced to stick to their timeline. So here you can define your own timeline, something to think about. Other thing is, when can we take a break and where? I think that was one of the questions in one of the previous travel diaries. So I just recommend, if you are traveling to India around between April to October, just Europe is the best place to take a break because of the weather. After November, it gets slightly colder, other than maybe like Turkey, Greece, or Spain, where you can visit in November. The rest of Europe is very cold, gets colder. And that time Asia is the best time to take a break because the weather is more pleasant. So between November and March, I would say Asia is where you take a break. And for folks who want to think where to go during Christmas time, New Zealand and Australia would be the best because it's summer there and great time to visit. All right. And when you're in different places, what are the best mode of transport? So personally, my experience, like there are quite a few cities where with just a metro pass, you can pretty much go anywhere. So whether it's Shanghai, Rome, or Paris, London, or even Hakone in Japan, you just get a pass and you can pretty much go anywhere in the city. It's pretty straightforward. And obviously, if you are in Japan or Europe, the train pass is extremely handy. So that's what we use, whether in Japan, Switzerland, or Italy. And certain places, surprisingly, you can pretty much walk the city, especially the more historic sites. It's not far from each other. So you can pretty much cover the city by foot. So that's what we did when we were in Istanbul and like in Italy, like especially Florence, Venice, Rome. It's pretty much walkable to the historic areas, and then one off you can take a metro. So I would encourage you to just leverage some of these options of public transport. Other handy thing to have is these new rideshare apps. Technology has helped us simplify some of these constraints. So just to give you an example, in China, Didi is one of the most popular rideshare apps because there's no Uber. When I request for a ride, it actually translates to the driver in local language. And when he types, it translates to me in English. So we have no cultural barrier on asking where we need, or ask the person where to go. You just use technology to do the translation and take you to from destination A to B. So that was very helpful. Even with Uber in Japan, so it's like the Japanese folks, they're not fluent in English. So you just use the app to just tell where to go and it works like a charm. And some areas like Southeast Asia, like Grab is the most popular app. So between these three apps, you're all set pretty much whenever you go around the world. So yeah, definitely a useful thing to have. Other thing is, how do I book local experiences? So there's a website called Klook. I can tell you, like, it has to be the cheapest for any experience you book in Asia, pretty much, whether it is taking the train to Victoria Terminus or Victoria's Peak or anywhere, like getting into Santos Island or anywhere. I don't know how they manage it. It's always cheaper than the regular websites and extremely handy to have whenever you're in Asia. So it pretty much covers every city in Asia. Very, very, very popular and efficient. And the other thing we do is, like, when we're in one place, if there is a place where public transport is not as common, like say Pisa in Italy, the trains are not as well connected. So we use the Viator app. Viator app pretty much has your short trips anywhere in the world. So, but for Europe, it is very, very available. So it's, I think, part of TripAdvisor now. But yeah, so for any local experience, you can't go wrong with Viator. Similarly, other thing I discovered is this. I mean, for people with kids, Disney is a very popular thing to go to the resorts, and some people have timeshare, but some people don't. So for the folks who don't have timeshare but want to experience it, there are websites like dvcrequest.com. What it does is, like, if the timeshare person cannot actually utilize their time to stay somewhere, they actually sell it through this website. And it's normally like $200 less than when you book directly on the website of Disney. And the other thing is, like, some of the things that you get in a timeshare is free parking, like say if you go to Aulani in Hawaii or something. So that in a regular website, you have to pay for parking. So doing through this, you get pretty much the same experience of a timeshare without the commitment of paying for timeshare for every year. So that's one of the differences. So I would just encourage you to try this out for sure. It was very helpful for us in Hawaii. We just used this. It was great.
I mean, that's not just limited to timeshare. It's also for like cruises, any Disney experience that a Disney timeshare, or what is that called, Disney member has, you get the same experience using their service through DVC.
Other thing, obviously, like, for people may hesitate to travel when they have kids, but I would highly encourage you to do so, because this is the best. Personally, we thought that was the best time to travel, because they get like a bassinet where they're like almost flat bedded. You get the front row seats as well if you're traveling economy, and you always get to get into the plane first because of having a small kid. So we just, especially with Leela, I think we traveled around 30 airlines in the first 2 years. So she was very a good kid that way. So we just traveled around for a lot.
Yeah, and now, I mean, the difference now versus then is, I think now they have, like, you know, we have to worry about things like, so in Disney, in Australia, we had wanted to watch the opera or experience the opera, but we couldn't because we knew that they won't have the patience. But if they were even little, they wouldn't care. They might have slept through it and we would have still had the opportunity to do it. So I think we think that as they grow, they have more opinions. So I think we had a better experience traveling with them when they were little rather than now. I mean, we still travel, but I think they have more stronger opinions now.
Yeah, one thing you need to realize is you expect to not do certain things when traveling with kids, but once you have that realization, you still can enjoy the rest. Like, you can't go bungee jumping in New Zealand with them. Something you to mentally prepare, and then everything else is good. Other thing is, everywhere when you go, like rooftop, people like to go to rooftop, get a great view of the city. One thing I would just recommend is look at alternate experience than just buying a ticket of the rooftop viewpoint, because just to give you some examples, if you go to this Burj Al Arab in Dubai, it's a 7-star hotel. To just enter, it's $25, I believe, if I'm not wrong. But if you just go instead and just reserve for a brunch, it's almost the same price, but you get an experience of dining there, something like that. Same with like Eiffel Tower. If you just go there and regularly stand in a line, it takes forever to get a ticket. So, but instead of that, if you just dine at the restaurant, you pretty much walk in to the top, and then you can, there's a separate lift to go to the rooftop, and much quicker and efficient for the diner. Same with Macau. So Macau, there's a circular restaurant, like the rotating restaurant in Macau. Instead of going to the rooftop, if you just buy a brunch or a high tea, like in Asia, high tea is very popular in the evenings. Those are not as pricey, but it almost gives you the same. You get a great experience of being there, but and also doing something else rather than just going to the rooftop. So something to consider and something we constantly do when we are traveling.
Yeah, I think it's a better experience than spending the time standing in line. You can spend that time in the restaurant and have the same or better experience in that same amount of time.
This is us having the brunch in Macau. Same, like this is yeah, the Bangkok one. So the funny thing is, if you're actually having a dinner here in this restaurant, it's probably almost $100 for a dish because it's a prime restaurant. But if you're staying in this hotel, you get free access to the rooftop. So if you stay in that Lebua hotel in Bangkok, it's $80 a night. But the so those are things you can consider. So it's basically free access through staying there rather than paying for an experience. So something to think about. As far as hotel booking is concerned, yeah, I mean, Airbnb, like it started later, but Airbnb works well in city centers. You get like some nice houses right at the city center, and something I would encourage you to do. But if you're doing some last minute bookings, Hotwire and Priceline have some great last minute bookings. You can, certain places when we said, oh, maybe we have to stay here, we changed our mind. We did get like some hotels for like less than 50% of the original price through Hotwire or the express deals in Pricelines. So it works best for last minute bookings. Switching to local currency, I think this is one of the common things people think, oh, where do I exchange money or whatever. Our personal experience is the best thing is you using a bank debit card in a local ATM. So traditional banks charge you for doing that, but there are so many online banks where they give you free ATM cash withdrawal anywhere in the world. So just to name a few, like Ally Bank, Schwab, or Capital One, they don't physically have a bank. Because of that, they give you free ATM withdrawal option anywhere else you go and credit you for 10 transactions a month. That works not just in US, but anywhere in the world. So my experience has been that gives you the best currency exchange rather than going to money exchange place at the airport or something, which is always more expensive. And just be mindful of how countries use the technology, because like as I said, in a country like New Zealand or Australia, we never withdrew local currency because the technology works like a charm anywhere you go. It's a very tech savvy place. Yeah, so just use your phone to pay for whatever. Other thing is just be mindful of how the local food scene is, just to experience it, because like it's not the same wherever you go. Like Taiwan, like night market, as I said, is very popular. And yeah, you just need to know something about it just to enjoy the experience. Like Tokyo, the thing I realized, there's these like nice Michelin star restaurants. Those are only open for dinner. I assumed it's open for lunch and dinner, but it's not. So something to consider. And same in Italy, like the naming of the restaurant kind of defines what kind of experience it is. So like Osteria is like the cheapest option, like people stand and eat. Trattoria is the mid-range where it's nice food and you can get some seating. But Ristorante is those white table places where it's a very fine dining experience. So yeah, just be mindful of some of the local culture. And the other thing we like to do when we're exploring is always go to a local market to understand the local culture, because you'll be surprised what all things you uncover. So especially when we went to Singapore, I realized kaya is a coconut spray, like a spread that you put in the bread, and a very popular local dish. And then when we went to the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, that's the oldest market in the world, by the way, the Grand Bazaar there. I realized there is a gold shop by my name. So it's interesting to identify unique things when you're actually exploring the local market or the local grocery store. The other thing that I personally use a lot, because I was traveling a lot, is like travel credit card. So it gives you some options. It works best for folks who are actually traveling more frequently. So the couple of credit cards, like the most popular ones, there's a Chase Reserve or American Express Platinum. It gives you free access to the lounges, like 1,000+ lounges around the world. It's yeah, it's great for like having a good dinner or a drink, or even like relaxing before you land or take off. And also, like, some of them cover your global entry fee as well. In some of these, no foreign transaction fee, and like some discounts for food and uh, like your ride share apps also. So this may not work for everybody, but for those who travel frequently, it's a very, very handy feature to actually use and experience. So these were some of the tips that I just quickly summarized based on my experience. Not everything may relate to you or your style of traveling, but I just wanted to just summarize my thoughts and share that with you all. That is pretty much our experience around the world and some of the planning tips. That I'll just open to any questions, any questions anybody may have.
Thanks, Sapan and Devika. I think you covered everything.
Yeah, thank you, Shilpaji.
Thanks, Tapan and Devika. Wonderful.
Yeah, beautiful pictures also.
Thank you, thank you.
He's the planner, so I just go along.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sapan. Thanks, Devika. Wonderful presentation.
Yeah, very well organized. Thank you so much for all the information you gave us. Very useful.
Thank you, Preeti.
Maybe we'll come to you for, helping us planning our trips.
Sure, anytime.
Answer to.
Yeah, there'll be a long line with 6 foot distancing beside the house.
These were the free tips, Preeti.
Uh-oh.
Tapan, one thing I liked what you said was, if you are going to New Zealand and Australia, please don't go to New Zealand first, but finish off Australia, because it will be disappointing if you go to Australia later. It was so true. It was very true.
Yeah, luckily we went to Australia first, so that helped.
Okay.
Yeah, that was wonderful that you got to catch the fireworks also.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's two times 9 and 12, so that we got both. Yeah.
We had gone in September to New Zealand, and we found the weather was just awesome. And our guide was telling us that, I don't know, in December, if you come, it would have been terribly hot here. That's what she told us.
It was rainy, I think. Yeah,
It's pleasant.
it was
actually.
pleasant and
20.
gloomy, actually. It was getting to the rainy sort of kind of weather. I think the day we glamped, there was some showers.
Oh.
like that, but it was still not super hot.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't super hot.
Oh, okay. But we were there in September, last week of September, and till the middle of October, and it was very, very pleasant because it was a fall season there. During fall we went.
That glamping was wonderful.
Yeah.
Unique experience. You have tried out some unique things, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the
Anywhere-
luge was very nice. Luge.
Yeah, yeah. So 2 places you can go. Singapore also, Sentosa Island you have. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And New Zealand, obviously, glamping you can do anywhere. So you don't need to stay in a hotel if you go to New Zealand. So there are like parks everywhere you go, and something you can always enjoy and stay.
Correct.
I think we wanted to do the van when we drove, but I think the minimum required is 2 weeks, and our overall trip was 2 weeks, so we couldn't do that. So we decided to go with the glamping. Camping was an option, but we thought no glamping because we didn't have the ability to carry everything with us. So.
Yeah.
Do they provide kind of a breakfast also, or?
Yeah, they have a kitchen and everything. So you can like buy whatever you want if you want to and cook in the kitchen. So we had like another Indian family who was glamping next to us. They were like actually getting groceries and doing that. They had a well equipped kitchen. But there's also like options to walk around and get food and everything.
Yeah, some people stay there for months.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's one thing you discover. Like a lot of people who quit their jobs for a year and just exploring the places.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the site actually had it had a hotel also, I think, right? The glamping.
Yeah, for the regular folks, there are also a lodge, regular lodge, but then the glamping is where it's more demand.
There is camping spot, there is glamping spot, and there's a lodge. And the lodge had like everything. So people who were like really extended stay were like having had the ability to like use the laundry and everything. So they had a laundry because a lot of people do hikes and other experiences like water experiences, everything there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think after the lockdown, a lot of Kaukans are going to quit their jobs and go on all these trips.
Yeah.
yeah, we really like. I think the New Zealand. The good part was the driving, just enjoying like the whole place. To me, it looked like a well manicured, park. Like the whole, like wherever you look, either you're looking at a sheep or a very beautiful flower bed. Like either one. Like there's no bad view.
Even the train journey from Greymouth to Christchurch, that was really spectacular because in fall, we had all the flowers and all, and spring was just coming to an end, and the fall had begun, and it was so beautiful. The train journey, train journey from Greymouth to Christchurch, west coast to east coast. That was also beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing we missed going south was, so someone was telling us is it that the cruise to go see the penguins, the boat trip, right?
Yeah, Melbourne.
The boat trip to go see the penguins on the South Island.
Yeah, that was from Melbourne.
Right.
No, that's from There's one from Christchurch.
That's
The Arctic view or something like that.
From Christchurch, it will be a little...
that, and we wanted to consider that, but that, again, it's like all these things you want to do, but the time is so limited, right?
We have covered a lot.
Alpine Trail, right? Transalpine Trail.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Sure, yeah. And I encourage you to just take a break wherever you can, whether it's few hours or a few days, whenever you travel. It's definitely helpful. You learn something new always.
Yeah, and also road trips are much more, you experience the culture and, the city much more than, like a guided trip or if you're flying or taking the public transport, right? When you drive a road trip, it's at your own pace and you can really gasun down.
And you can
and
stop,
one of the
stop wherever you want, when you go by road.
Yeah, New Zealand, the interesting part is the population driving on the other side of the road is more than the locals because the tourists are more than the population. So that's the first sign you'll see in any rental car.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Kushi.
What year did you go in?
This was between 2005 to 2019.
Oh, where?
Different years. So where? You see, your specific question was New Zealand? Or which place?
Wait, what?
Which year did we go where? Which country? Were you asking for a specific country?
No.
No?
No. It's just a general question. So
General
then your
question.
answer was right.
Yes. It's over the last 15 years.
Her main focus is that Kaya, is that Leela, how old are they?
Oh, okay.
Correct.
One of the pictures we thought it was Kaya, it turned out to be Leela.
Oh yeah, the one in Switzerland, right? Yeah, that is
Right.
Leela.
That was 2013.
13, yeah.
Yeah.
When did you guys get married? How many years now?
2007.
Oh, even Angela 2007.
Same
Oh.
year.
Yeah. Yeah, but most of our trips have been, like he said, stopover, so that, we stop over somewhere and then we can make our trip to India. So
Yeah. So each trip, how much was the duration?
It varies. The longest was the France, Italy. We did 12 days.
Okay.
Shortest was probably 2 days also. Like in Hong Kong was 2 days.
Yeah.
but then I think you feel good about doing 2 days where it's essential to do 2 days. And then when we went to Europe, we didn't try to cover everything. We just, were specific about things. We do know that we'll have to go back to see what we didn't see last time, but
Yes.
when you see what you see, it's some experience that is a lasting experience.
Right, that's true, yeah. Any other question, anyone?
When I went to India, I had stopped over to Dubai,
Mhm.
Abu Dhabi, and Muscat. So I got to see 3 places, and it was free. I didn't have to pay additional charges.
Yeah. I mean, lots of people may not know some of the perks the airline provides. So I didn't get to use like how you used it in Dubai.
Right, and you can go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi free. Like there's no, they have their own shuttle service, so you
Yeah.
don't have to pay for that also.
Yeah, because most of the big airlines, they also own the hotel. So for them, it's not a big extra burden to just.
Yeah, no, staying was free for me because I have relatives in all the
Yeah.
towns.
Oh, okay. No, I think when Dubai and I took the break, I intentionally took a break where I had a 23-hour layover so that I could spend a day in Dubai.
I had 1 week in each place. Like Abu Dhabi had 1 week, Dubai had 1 week, and Muscat I had 1 week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love the way you summarized the tips. Some things that we take for granted, or if we do subconsciously, you have, put them as strategies or tips so that we'll keep it in mind in future travels.
Thanks for organizing this. That way I could recollect and put the thoughts together.
Tapan, have you ever considered starting a travel agency, maybe Konkani Travel Agency?
Nice idea, Kendra.
Yeah, especially after this lockdown, I think everyone is going to down to all the places for all the travel to make up for the lockdown.
Yeah, I know everyone needs that break.
Even when we went to on a 6-month vacation to different countries, we used the Viator, and it was so helpful. It was very helpful.
Yeah, certain places we use like Vatican or Tuvatana, like there is a line if you go, Viator has that fast pass. So, I mean, some places like that, Viator was very useful. And even Italy into the countryside gallery, like they're not trains that connect, so it's not good connectivity to change trains.
Correct.
Why one day tour tani like to Tuscany and Vartati. So those are like, yeah, those are places where we use white.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Devika.
Thank you,
and
guys.
Sarpan.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for
Thank you, Devika and
together.
Tapan.
Bye.
And
Bye.
just to everyone, next week we will not be having any Kauka event because of the long weekend. And after that, on September 13th, we'll be having our next travel diaries from Travel Diaries point of view. And it will be VP Ma'am, Kumada Pachi, Arun, and Sujata Kamath, who will be taking us on a tour of Israel and Jordan. So thank you, Devika and Sapan. Very nice presentation.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.